That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Today we dance with the dead. The dance macabre. If you don't know who that is Liliana Vess. Made her home plane of Innistrad. Now, for those of you who are uninitiated or maybe don't know this little thing about this grim facade that you keep listening to and for some reason seeing time and time again, let me inform you. Innistrad is one of the many planes, many settings of Magic the Gathering. Maybe you've heard of it. Collectible card game. Very, very big. I ended up starting back over an Ice Age. So I've been playing on and off fairly casually, sometimes trying to be competitive. But either way, I am absolutely fascinated with the setting. The one that we are bringing forward is arguably one of my favorites, Innistrad. Now, to explain Innistrad to Dungeons and Dragons, Ravenloft would be a very, very apt comparison. But a few key differences. So when I end up discussing, a lot of these ideas might be able to leak into that sort of campaign. Obviously, I'm big into horror. I mean, it's pretty much written in the name, isn't it? So, where do we begin? Innistrad is a plane where humanity is constantly scraping in the dark. It's constantly trying to push back the things outside, the other. Okay. Well, what is the other? The other is the undead zombies and ghouls and skeletons and mindless creatures that slaughter human beings wholesale, increasing their number. Oh, well, it's a zombie apocalypse. Well, no, this is where the whole appeal of it and the connections towards Ravenholm also end up connecting. There's also vampires. Now, these are far more your traditional vampires, but the interesting thing about Innistrad is vampirism is not a curse. It is something weaved in the very fabric of the world, in amongst this land, this dimension, whatever you want to call it. The mana, this magical force that weaves amongst the earth, the plains, well, swamps, mountains, forests, islands, whatever you would call it. Everything is tainted. It's particularly dark and gruesome, and almost everything has a twist to it. In amongst this, vampirism has been known to create itself. It seems to be almost like a cockroach. It's just something that can't be exterminated, nor does it want to be. It seems like the natural state of Innistrad. Vampirism runs rampant. You have predators always trying to get into human settlements who bar their doors every night because the nights are long. In fact, they're almost eternal. You never really see the sun. And if you do, it's for briefest of seconds and is considered a miracle unto itself. You end up having werewolves. Werewolves is a strange thing. Some people might even whisper that, well, superstition says if you were ever bitten or wounded by a werewolf in so long, you would be raised among their number, wishing to rend apart, be a killing machine, a threat to all those around you. And the monster you become has no cares or ties to humanity. Well, that's a threat that needs to be ostracized. So With these two threats outside, paranoia is built heavily. Everyone views each other with suspicion. No one ever trusts one another. Whereas humanity's reprieve, well, they all end up speaking to the Archangel Avacyn. Avacyn has been created by a great planeswalker, that being which can jump between planes, but little is known amongst the common folk, and that's how you want to play it. It's very nice if you're into these a little bit more black and white evil without being just completely hardline with it. The reason being is that when you start, you typically end up having a party that is a part of a settlement. Trying to travel the roads is very, very difficult because all manners of predator and undead abomination might end up taking you. So, how do you start such a campaign? First and foremost, understand that this is where you can end up starting off with basic skeletons and zombies if you're into that whole CR climb thing. But you can end up having it with a bit of a twist. You see, the idea at its very core is all these threats are outside, but what's inside is just as dangerous and is waiting to let things mull over. There are people who are taking advantage of the paranoia, and there are cults worshipping demonic forces that can be found throughout Innistrad. Those who would pay homage to such things can surely boast great rewards to maintain their own survival. What's the cost of one's soul? Quite clearly, life is extremely cheap in Innistrad. You find these cults, a hidden werewolf, a vampire. Oh, but it gets so much worse. It gets to that blacksmith you cared so much about who lost his family. Tragedy it was. But he works hard trying to protect everyone by offering his services. Just all he asks is for his grieving time. Till you find out that through the cult, through his own hands, he's stitched together amongst metal and sinew, a walking abomination, not quite undead, a construct of flesh and metal. All of his family's heads, his wife's head is centered inside a cavernous chest that has metal fixtures to keep the head in place. She is forever trapped there, while his son's is part of the back. His wife's arms are around, and his daughter's just a tiny head is stitched to the shoulder, crying, whispering because it can't see mommy. The son is angry, gone insane when he has seen what has happened to him. Of course, such an abomination needs to be chained in the basement. Can't be let out. The villagers can't know. Why is that? Well, obvious reasons. They might end up lynching, destroying his family again. They might kill him. Think he's gone mad. Is it really crazy to want to stay with your family? Can't have them taken away again. Madness, big theme that happens amongst Innistrad, especially lately with the coming of, well, a grand mystery. Things twisting and mutating into eldritch horrors, even Werewolves and vampires aren't immune. Nothing seems immune except the walking dead, these corpses brought about by black mana, twisted and churned, in the command of who? Well, she who dances with the dead. Liliana Vess. Now, if only I could end up getting that stood up right. Liliana is a planeswalker, akin to a god as far as most are concerned, because whereas many mages might be able to cast fireballs and be able to twist the dead to their will, small machinations are trite compared to a creature such as a planeswalker. A planeswalker can come from any plane, could come from the living lands of Zendikar, could be from the ages of old Dominaria. It could come from anywhere, and there are several places. So the interesting thing about this setting is you can actually have elements from other sets, other settings slowly start to blend over, because it is known to have individuals who can go from one plane to the next. And this is so few. But to have the spark, that which lets you tap into the rich mana of a land and cast abilities that the furthest imagination couldn't follow, well, that might be worth it. But I spoke earlier that there is hope. Well, maybe there was at one point. Avacyn, who was indeed restored, created by a vampiric planeswalker. She became a symbol not only of divinity but protection. Even her angels would come on occasion to interfere with what ended up happening to mortals, saving them, raising them up, and in so they became worshipped. And recently, it's been discovered that perhaps Avacyn has gone mad. What is this thing that creeps along? Those of you who end up following Magic the Gathering probably know this quite well, but consider it as a setting. The protector of a grand world is going mad. Along with the threats, things are getting more vicious and make less and less sense. Knowing that things are scraping at the walls and not knowing who to trust. How do you make life better for yourself? How do you build it up? That's a question only your player characters can answer. Remember the themes. You are trapped behind the walls. Stepping out might even be considered suicide to many. You're one of the brave few who can defend themselves. However, the living need water, food. They grow tired and weary. They must sleep sometime. But the dead never do. And those things that hunt man never stop. Consider this as a setting, especially if you're like me and enjoy horror, this being close to Halloween and all. Well, I think you'll find it much to your liking if your tastes parallel mine. If you ended up finding this video interesting or helpful, feel free to press the like button. If you'd like to follow along for more content, press the subscribe button. If you have any questions, comments, or a topic you'd like me to cover, feel free to leave a comment in the description or south of the description. You know where it is. Until then, listen for the scratching at the door.